What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about hip motion. This is really, really important in the golf swing, and we are bringing back Billy Fitzgerald. If you remember from earlier in the summer, we did a couple of videos with him over at Beverly Country Club, and we were talking about alignment and compression, all really, really good stuff. In these videos, we're going to talk about hip motion because this is so misunderstood in the golf swing and how your hips work to be able to strike the ball consistently and just more powerfully. So I wanted to make sure we get these in as you're going to work on your swing. A great thing to be working on as you're going through the off season. Before we jump into those videos, I just wanted to bring up, we are going to be having our Illinois PGA Birdies for Charity event. It's on October 23rd. If you're so interested, we are looking for people to pledge for Lurie's Children's Hospital and a couple other charities. I'm gonna link the page down below where you can learn all about them. Some really good causes, some that I really, really love and believe in, and I'm gonna be playing 90 holes in a day. So I'm going out there to try to make as many birdies as I can, and you can donate and help for the cause. If you're interested, please check the link out down below. If you're not, you just wanna wish me luck about playing 90 holes in a day, I'll take that too, because I don't know how I'm gonna make it through that, but we're gonna go for it, all right? So, without further ado, we're going to head out to Beverly Country Club, and we're going to see Billy Fitzgerald, and we're going to talk about hip motion. Full place here in Chicago, and we're going to talk about a topic that everybody asks about, and I think nobody, or very few people understand. Let's say that. They just see they hear it on TV, and they say, I got to do that. And that is, they got to move their hips. Okay, so we're going to talk about this in a two-part series here because everybody thinks about hips in the downswing and they're thinking, all right, I got to fire my hips through the ball, but as we just talked about, there's more to it. And we got to work on them going back first before we can go down to the golf ball.
Right.
So we're going to talk a little bit about how those hips move in the backswing. So Billy, take it away.
I think, Scott, that the very first thing that we need to think about, and I think this is a very safe place to start, is impact.
Yeah.
You know, that's the holy grail. That's the only thing that matters.
Right.
So, when you look at impact, what we want to have happen at impact is my hips can't be closer to the ball than when they started.
Right.
If they are, then I'm invading the space which my arms need to attain to get that compression that I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so what impact looks like is this left hip pushes out of the way. And when my left hip pushes out of the way, it pulls my right hip forward or up to the ball, not into.
Okay.
Up to the ball. And you can see this side, which we'll get into, is starting to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is it tilts my shoulders a little bit, which is going to straighten my arm, and it puts this right arm right on the back of the shaft.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the very first thing that we need to think about is that there's no moving into.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you look at the hips, they're oblong, okay? And so if I just start turning my hips,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start moving into the ball. So what I like to think of is hip rotation. I think a better word is hip movement in straight line forces.
Okay.
Which is it's gonna look like hip rotation.
Yeah.
But it's more straight line forces. So just like how I would walk. So if I walked backwards this way, my hips would work in straight lines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a lot of the same thing is that when we get over the golf ball of what we need to do as far as how my hips work. So in the backswing, when I take the club away, this right hip socket pushes back. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
now it does look like my hips are turning,
Mm-hmm.
which they are getting out of the way, but my right foot and my right knee and my right thigh push this hip socket back and up.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're talking about those tilts again.
Yeah.
And we want to maintain those tilts. So again, as that right hip pushes back and up, this left hip moves forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my left hip doesn't move into the ball.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I can see is that my knee and my thigh and my foot starts to roll in. That's when I know I have enough hip depth.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically what we're looking at is that my hip socket's going to go back, which is going to help me turn, which is going to help the club swing in the right arc.
Yeah.
And what I see so much and with so many people is that I think what we've all been taught through the years, we've been taught a lot, but was lock this right side up, right? And then try to turn, which is very difficult with that. and then push off your right side. When you agree, Scott, as far
Yeah,
as
yeah,
invading
and
that space?
And I always hear it too, is people are worried about, moving too much,
Yes.
right? And we said it earlier too, is athletic, right? Hey, we got to be athletic. And what I see right there is, as you're going back, as you're doing the tilt, it's like, all right, hey, I'm going back. This knee is going to move a little bit. There's freedom in there.
There's a lot of freedom. Yeah. Again, the last thing you want to do is keep from the waist down quiet. There's lots of positions, and there's lots of movement in your feet, your ankles, your knees, your thighs, your hips. All that stuff's got to move, so we don't end up with just a whole upper body swing.
Right. And when you're looking at it on a camera, you might not see it.
Right.
But if, as a golfer feeling it, as you mentioned with the joints, with your hips, what I think people confuse is they're thinking the hips move like this. Well, the way that joint is in the hip socket is that thing's moving in a lot of different directions.
Right.
That not just turning like that. And so as a golfer, you feel it. And so maybe somebody describes that to you saying, oh, I feel my hips do this. But when you look at it, you might not see it, right? And so you got to be careful about that as you're going through.
Let me just grab something here, Scott.
Yeah.
So this would be a great example. I've never seen anything better than visually of what this gives us, of how your hips work. So if I set this back down to the ball, so this would be my left hip socket here, my right hip socket here, in the middle of my hips.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't have the best players in the world, the middle of their hips, and that's probably the most important part, because these are going to move.
Yeah.
Is that this middle can't move closer to this ball.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about hip sockets, this left hip may move in, but on the backswing, when you swing back, this right hip moves back.
Right.
Which it moves my middle of my hip backwards. So if I just get here, Scott, and I'm just working on turning back.
Yeah, you're getting
closer.
And
I start turning back, that left hip starts moving towards that ball, and now I'm getting closer to the ball. Now I'm really, it's game over from there.
Yeah, you're in a bad spot.
So that's what when you look at what your hip sockets are doing, yes, this left hip is going to move, but I think for hip turn can get a lot of people in trouble.
Yeah.
But if you talk about your hip socket and how your right foot goes this way, and your right leg pushes this hip socket out of the way, we start to get further away from the ball.
Yeah.
One more thing with that, Scott, is that, again, that we talked about are these tilts. So if I get into a position here, and I'm in my posture, so when my right hip socket goes back and up, because I've got to go around my spine angle, my right shoulder goes back and up, and now this knee goes in, and this thigh is going to work in.
Yeah.
If I come out of my posture and I turn, or I go too flat, this hip's going to go into the ball as well.
Your belt buckle's moving closer, so the center of those hips are moving closer.
Exactly.
All that.
As soon as I go flat this way, my hips are going to go towards that golf ball. So just watch your shoulders and watch your hips when you're starting to work with this hip flexion, because they're all connected, and they all need to work around the spine angle. So again, right hip socket back. So you're going to feel this tilt. Yeah.
And then so as they get that loaded up, one thing you talked about was straight line forces, right?
Yeah.
So as they do that, if you're in that setup, okay, can you take a setup for me? Yeah. One thing I think as I'm picking up on this is you talk about straight line forces and force that you put into it. So if you're going to actually create proper turn, you're not actually turning it at all. Like, you're turning, but you're not creating, or it's getting created. You're not actually doing it,
exactly.
Right? So go ahead and do that one more time. Make that backswing for me. So as you go back, what you just mentioned there is you're pushing with this foot up through here, and it's pushing this back.
And it pushes my hip socket back. Yeah, correct.
And so that's really what we're looking for as we go. And as we talked about with, length of backswing, stuff like that, then you're going to be transitioning forward, and we're going to talk about the downswing in a second, but you need to be able to then create that on the other side, essentially, is what you're going. So, okay, so we're going to leave it at that for now. So key things when you're going in backswing hip motion. You got one more thing for it? Go ahead.
Just one more thing, just for someone to look out for if they're doing it correctly. Scott, when you swing back and you want to feel like this hip socket goes so far back that this toe starts to come off the ground a little bit, so you're in your heel.
Okay.
Because see, I can make a hip turn and be on my toe, I can make a hip turn and be on my toe. So you want to feel when this pushes back that you're starting to feel that toe up there lift a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm going in the right spot.
Okay. So then again, all kind of pushing away from the ball.
Yeah, nothing's going that way.
The worst thing you can do pretty much is with your hips is go at the ball.
Yeah.
If we had to summarize it. So a couple of things, we're creating some hip, I guess you could call it hip depth, whatever you want to call it. Its rotation is not what you think it is. It's not something you do. It's something you create.
Right.
That's the takeaway. And you do it by, we're going to push away through our leg. And as you mentioned there, we're going to make sure we're not moving onto our toe. We're moving to that heel.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So let's just go right into the downswing. We'll just kind of cut it and go.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. So, all right. So then as we go through, we're moving from a backswing where we talk about hips, and again, I think super misunderstood for people about the. All right, guys, so that is what we see with those hips. Again, it's more about how they tilt and set in those hip sockets, not necessarily the rotation that everybody thinks it should be. That leads to a lot of problems, a lot of inconsistencies. So we are gonna have a part 2 to this video because this one was just jam-packed with so much information. I just wanted to go ahead and let you digest it, and then we will bring it back. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already, and make sure you head over and check out Billy's channels and his Instagram and all that. He has a lot of great advice on there, so I will link all of that down below. Again, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.